La Crosse's Northside Stories podcast featuring Bill Temte is sponsored by Willow Heights. Find Willow Heights subdivision just 18 minutes from the mall. Find them at willowheightswi.com. You mentioned that there was people that would pick vegetables and fruits and things, and then they'd come to like your father's market and sell them to your dad, and sell them to some of the other markets around there. And there was a lot of grocery stores or markets in the north side back when you were growing up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the one that it was talking about was just where 16, before you go over the river and you go into Madera there, some area right there, he would grow his vegetables and stuff and then ride his bike into the north side and had a big basket on front, peddle his stuff, and he'd peddle it to the small grocery stores and some of the bars and the Vogue and Oni's restaurant that dates way back. That's where they would get their stuff. And I was just, again, part of that simple life of the north side.
So Oni's was actually attached to the Vogue, right? Yeah. And that was fine dining back in the day?
Well, as much as you had on the north side. And you could get from one to the other inside, but you could get just into Oni's or just into the Vogue on the outside.
So the Bridgeview Plaza area, when that popped up, what used to be there prior to that?
That used to be Wilkerson's sand pit, a very large sand pit, and it was all filled in by dredging out the Shopko Bay, which is the river outside. See, the river used to be just all the river came down a channel, but they had to have sand to fill in developing of the Shopko Center there.
With all those sand pits that were around, we've talked about a couple of them that you brought up. Is that where the kids like you and your brothers and sister used to play baseball, or was there other places to play baseball?
Actually, we played ours in the alley behind the bars, just by our house there. There's and it was softball. We'd play softball, a hard ball, but to the street. And I mentioned the what used to be the hotel there, across that street, and up to home base was at my neighbor's garage, and the telephone pole over there was first base, and a second base was dug out there, and third base, it was another natural part of the parking area, and we played there and kind of have a perpetual game going there all summer long.
Did you guys use baseball gloves and bats and real balls, or did you end up using what was kind of there?
Bats and balls, but mostly not gloves. Few gloves would show up, but they weren't really that needed. And so.
You ever hit a home run?
I don't know. Probably did at one time or another. Because, you see, you could hit it over along the alley there, one of the people who lived on Wood Street, you could hit it over his shack on the back of it where he kept his boat. And that was to be playable, and that could be a home run. Because first base was here, and he...
Right.
But he was quite a character. He worked on the railroad, and he had a boat on a push cart. Huh. And he would push it down to the river and fish all day and come back.
And pull it back at night?
Yeah, clean his fish. And
you don't see that nowadays. I mean, people got their, I don't know if you watched any of the Bassmasters when they were here with their, $100,000 boats and their electronics in there that's going to find the fish for you. Yeah. Not like casting all the time and reeling in new ones,
Yeah. Oh, I know that bunch real good from my own history of living in different places. And yeah, now somebody told me there is a pontoon boat at some dock around here with 2 400-horse Evinrudes on it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said. Well, because I used to have a 21-foot pontoon boat with a 50-horse Mercury with what's called a Bigfoot bottom, so that it gets more power to push your boat. And I'd pull water skiers and everything with it. But I can't. Well, we were out in my son's boat on Father's Day, and we saw a couple of these boats going 60 miles in pontoons, 60 miles an hour down the river, you know.
They're not enjoying it. You got to enjoy that. Go slow and just take it all in.
We still had that pontoon boat when my son's office was up there in the building on the river there.
In the LHI building?
Yeah. And my wife and I, we'd just like to go out for a little boat ride during the day. And we'd go down there and park the boat, just let it sit in the middle of the river. Look up at his office, dial him on the phone. Say, Andy, we're having a good time. Would you like to come down and go with us? And he accepted it as just fun joke.
How many times did he take you up on it?
Once.
How many kids do you have?
I've got 3.
Are they all musical like Andy?
Oh, yeah. In fact, one of the most fun things we did as a family is my wife is at Christ Episcopal, my wife playing the organ, and the 4 of us singing songs in 4-part harmony. And they were older by this time, of course. But we used to do it, and we've got a CD called The Temte Singers or something. I forget what the title is that we did. And
right.
So music was really a part of our life. I was with a guy who had a little parlor organ, pump organ. And I said, yes, I have a picture of growing up on George Street. And we had one of those little ones, very ornate thing, you know, and a picture of my mother sitting playing, and the 4 of us kids, and my sister, who's youngest, couldn't have been over 8 or 9. So that would make my oldest brother 13 or 14. And we'd sing Christmas music in 4-part harmony. And my father then would go out and let the people who lived in the neighborhood that they could come, and he would set up a little manger scene. And my brothers, we all had proper bathrobes with stripes on them, you know, the Magi. My sister always had to be Mary. She hated that. But we'd put on a little show singing some of the carols, and my mother playing the little organ, and the people come in and just love it. But that was part of that. That was nothing that unusual or dramatic. It was part of that simpler people still getting together and enjoying each other.
Do you miss the simple times?
Oh, yes. Try to maintain it as much as I can. But there's too much hectic going on around you to really say it's the simple times. And I'm getting old, so I'm gonna be 40 years old this year. Celebrating the 40th anniversary of 40.
La Crosse's Northside Stories podcast with Bill Temte is sponsored by Willow Heights, a subdivision just 15 minutes from downtown La Crosse. Find them at willowheightswy.com. The Northside Story podcast is a podcast for hire.com production.